If you're an angler that fishes every day or just a weekend warrior, you won't want to miss what our guides have to say this week here on the Texas Insider Fishing Report.
Well, hey there, Texas. I'm Bree Gabrielle, and this is Captain Rick Murphy on the one and only Texas Insider Fishing Report. We're so excited to have y'all back and tuning in to get your fix of some weekend fishing. And someone who's always excited about weekend fishing is Dave over at the CCA Workbench. What's up, Dave?
Weekend, weekdays, anytime.
Weekend warrior. He's in charge of rigs and techniques and new products. You got some good stuff for us today?
Yep, we're going to talk about one of the most important tools you can have, a cast net.
I can do a cast
About
net.
a cast net. I know you can.
We're going to show you guys how to do.
Net aficionado.
Well, I try. Learn from the best.
Oh,
That's how it
thank you.
goes. Something else happening this weekend is Mother's Day, Rick. And what better way to get your mama out on the water for a day of bass, trout, or redfishing, don't you think?
Absolutely. You know, Bree, there's going to be a lot of mamas out there fishing. I don't think Miss Murphy's going to be out there fishing.
Oh, but she should
I'm
be.
not really quite sure at this point what Miss Murphy's going to be doing, but I better get my stuff together.
Well, maybe you should take mama out on the water.
Absolutely.
All right, well, if you're in the lower coast region from Rockport down to Laguna Madre, Captain Chad Kinney can for sure get you on the redfish and trout bite. Let's hear it, Chad.
Tell you what, guys, we finally had a break in the weather, and it sure showed by the amount of reports I got from all my buddies heading from Port A down to South Padre. So this week we're going to go with South Padre Island. We haven't touched that as far south. So out of South Padre, look for trout and the drop off the intercoastal by the Long Bar. Also look down in the South Bay where the tides are, very up and they start dropping off. It's a good spot to start there also in the morning. Trout fishing's been good. Live shrimp, pop and cork along the Long Bar out of South Padre. You can also try some live finger mullet croaker with free line, like a 5-aught kill hook, attached to about 25 pound fluorocarbon leader. And look for the grass line, which it'll be a dark color right there, and it'll go to green. That's the edge of that grass right on the drop off there by the intercoastal. So fish that edge. And if you see some guts that cut through there, that means it'll be green through there on the edge of the weed beds there, a little bit deeper. So go ahead and try those also, especially if you get some tidal movement there. If the tide's moving, pretty heavily, then go ahead and add a little slip shot if you need to, or a little extra weight to kind of help that get down if you're fishing in some deeper drop off there. And if the tides are up a little bit like that and they're falling out, definitely try South Bay down there. Start early with some top waters, and then move along over to some live shrimp. Pop and cork's been working well. And heading over to the redfish. The redfish have been heading north from South Padre, and then look towards Gaswell Flats. Try a gold weedless spoon, quick retrieve. If you find a color change, if the weather's blowing and it's muddied up water, then I'd probably switch over to the live shrimp, with a pop and cork. Same thing, 25 pound fluorocarbon leader, and adjust the length of the leader to the depth you're fishing in. A lot of that area is 2, 3, 4 foot deep. So if you're in 3 foot of water, go ahead and do about a 24-inch leader. You want to keep that bait out of that grass line and go from there. So when you're looking for those redfish, if it's calm out, every condition's different. So if it's calm out, look for the wakes pushing in that calm water. If it's there, you'll see them. It's real visible. If you got some wind out there, which is pretty normal from here, a lot of guys don't know it or they'll see it, but look for the mud boils. So basically redfish have that hard, bigger tail. They're not like mullet. Mullet can't make a big mud boil. So if you see a big mud boil, 2, 3 feet around like that, it's a big redfish that you just spooked and kicked up some mud. You see enough of those, go ahead and stop and fish that area. That'd be a lot more productive. So moving to the offshore. Offshore is just absolutely on fire. I got reports from everywhere, but we'll concentrate on a few things here. So heading out of South Padre again, head up to the canyon or even deeper for wahoo, dorado, billfish, and look for some tilefish in depths of water about 1,000 foot or plus. The offshore, the wahoo, were caught right in the canyon and past the canyon out there out of South Padre, and I still like using that. Try that Rapala diver for the wahoo, and some islanders rigged with some ballyhoo on your outriggers, and shotgun there for the billfish and the dorado and stuff. So in the canyon, when I'm talking about that, the canyon's a drop off on the continental shelf here that we got. So basically, you'll start at about 400 feet. You'll start seeing structure, and it'll drop off to 1,000 feet within a mile, 2 miles top. So just keep working that drop-off area. There's been some good weed lines also, so keep an eye out for that. And through some color changes, definitely work that weed bed or color change, or if you see some temp breaks out there.
Hey, Chad, I do have a question for you. You're talking about running out to that drop-off of the continental shelf. How far a run is that?
To us, we're spoiled. We seem like it's far here, but it's not for Texas. We're about the closest place. We got about a 40-mile run before we hit the continental shelf.
Whoa.
And that's out of South Padre and Fort Mansfield here, so it's still a good run, but it's it'll definitely work, and it's worth when you get out there, especially this time of year, because it's definitely very productive. On those divers, those rappers I was telling you about, when you're starting to troll, use about 7.5 knots. And if you're targeting those wahoo, I like putting those baits out right at about the edge of the prop wash. So you run them kind of close, kind of stagger them out and off from each other. And on the outriggers, go ahead and try some ballyhoo rigged, on an Islander, and kind of stagger those out too. And you can put those on your shotgun, which is also your center rigger on that. And the Dorado and the billfish, that'd be more of your shot for those type items. There's been several blue marlin that were caught and released, some good sizes, anything from 200 to 400 pounds on those. So if you get one, blast one of your outriggers, you're going to snap and take off, or have a pitch bait ready if they're starting to get finicky or they're coming up on your spreads on you.
All right, tell me about this photo, Buck.
Yeah, on the having to move to the tilefish here, they're heading out. Depth's about 1,000 foot water. I try that. They're not going to mark anything on the bottom. It's just they stay in the mud down there. So use a small circle hook like a 5/0. Rigged with 4 or 5 hooks per line. Try a 3-pound weight or better to get down to the bottom. And that's the best thing. Use some squid and get it cut up in the small part. And we got a picture there of a tilefish, which was a beautiful fish, probably 20, 25-pound golden tile.
Absolutely. Great picture, great report this week. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the lower coast hotspots. Inshore, trout. Head out south to Padre Island. Look for the trout on the deep drop-offs of the intercoastal by Longbar. Also look for the South Bay when the tides are at their peak and dropping. And then offshore, wahoos, dorados, billfish, and tilefish. Out of the South Padre Island, you're gonna head to the canyons and deeper for the wahoos, dorados, and billfish. Look for the tilefish in 1,000+ feet of water, Bree. Whoa. That's a lot of water.
That's a lot of water. Okay, we've got your guide Rick Carter reporting from Amarillo, down into Lubbock, over to the Fort Worth and Dallas area, and continuing to Lake Fork, Louisville, and Texoma. It's all about the bass this weekend, so tell us how it's done, Rick.
Hey, Bree. We're over here at Lake Fork again. The bass are getting over the post spawn, so the early morning topwater bite has been really great. Catching them on skitterwalk and vixen, which is a spook type bait. Walking the dog real slow and steady all the way back to the boat is catching a lot of fish right now. The other fish during midday, we're catching them on a 5-inch swim baits around the main lake channel swings. Some with the football jigs later in the day. PBJ color on the jig has been real good, and that's been the best patterns on Fort. Moving on to Lake Texoma up north in my region, the bass are still shallow, getting over the spawn right now. It's a little further north in Texas. So the key is finding the submerged brush, the shallow cover that people have put out, throwing a good medium diving crankbait, and a smaller swim bait that's rigged weedless. You can come through that cover in. Some of the bass are still around the docks we talk about on Texoma, especially in the Highport area. About a 5-inch shad color assassin dye dipper on a 3/4 ounce head is catching those fish.
All right, so you got a picture for me there, Rick?
Yes, we have a Texoma photo there. James West and his sons are practicing for a big high school event coming, and I lined them up on some stuff. They have some big fish there and one giant smallmouth.
Are you finished with bass? If you are, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the Navionics.
Yeah, that's all the bass.
All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the Navionics. Now, we're talking about the Fork Reservoir area, and we're talking about the Wolf Creek area. Now, our guide Rick says that, listen, this time of year, as the water warms up, you're going to want to fish all the deep water patterns. And as you can see here, all of these points create some real quick, deep drop-offs. That's why the lines are so tight looking at the sonar charts that Navionics provides for us. Now, what Rick's saying is that we're going to want to use crankbaits fishing these edges, as well as we're going to use a watermelon red Texas rigged worm, and that's going to seem to work really, really well. All right, Rick, what else do you have us this week in the Upper Fresh region?
Rick, we have some white bass on Lake Fork. All the main lake humps right now are loaded with giant white bass. Most Texans call them sand bass. But the 3/4 ounce CC spoon, real simple bait in the nickel color, is the best bait right now. Find these fish on your graph. They will just light the screen up. They're in giant schools. It's 25 fish over 10 inch is the limit. And if you want some fish to take home right now, get out the fork and get after those white bass. It's really easy to catch them. Moving to Lake Louisville, the white bass are schooled up there also around the dam area. And the old Lake Dallas area is over by the 121 Marina. It's got the same pattern going, the big CC spoon. Find them on your graph and catch them up, Rick.
All right, well, thank you so much. Good report this week. We're gonna, tell me about this photo real quick.
Yes, we have a photo there of a yellow bass caught by one of my customers last week. A yellow bass is a different, not a white bass. We missed the lake record by 3/10 on that fish there.
Wow, I really like the fact that the guy's wearing his life jacket just in case he falls in. It's not going to be a problem. Good job, Rick. Great report this week. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from your region. Lake Fork, main lake humps and channel swings, crankbaits and football jigs are producing some big catches of largemouth. And then Lake Louisville, white bass are schooled up in big groups around the old Lake Dallas area and by the dam. You're gonna try spoons. Crankbaits are the best choices, Bree.
All right, moving right along here in the Texas Insider Fishing Report, we're checking out the bite in the Middle Coast region and then casting over to Dave for some rigs and techniques action. Stay tuned, y'all. We'll be right back. What you got there?
Talking about cast nets.
Cast net.
If you can throw a cast net,
like
you'll
it.
never buy bait again.
That's true.
Never buy bait
Bait
again.
to the catch. All right, guys, we'll be right back.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. The American Fishing Tackle Company. Precision tackle and performance clothing since 1958. Guy Harvey, marine wildlife artist and conservationist. Navionics. We start where the road ends. CCA Texas, a leader in marine conservation. And Okuma, inspired fishing.
Meet the water's lightest 25 horsepower four-stroke, the all-new Yamaha F25, the new standard and 25 horsepower portable four-strokes. At just 126 pounds, it's got the best power-to-weight ratio of any 25 horsepower four-stroke on the water. With performance that bests the previous Yamaha F25 and features like Yamaha's VTS for precise trolling speeds, batteryless EFI, built-in resting pads, and carry handles, it's the perfect portable power for small boats.
Remember the glory days of gasoline? It's just not made the same anymore.
Kick your gas into gear with StarTron. Pump up the performance in all of your engines. Cure the problems of ethanol with the power of enzymes. And maximize your mileage every time you drive. Kickstart your engines with StarTron.
Inside you, there's an outside you. A you that takes the road less traveled than the road less traveled. And finds the comforts of home extremely uncomfortable. This is for that you.
Remember to follow our guides and be up to date on all things fishing in Texas. Make sure to head over to TexasInsiderFishingReport.com. You can also like us on Facebook at Texas Fishing Report and follow us on Instagram at TifferTV. Also, don't forget to send and tag us in your Fishtastic photos and videos. But now it's time for Rigs and Techniques.
You know, every week there's a lot of stuff that goes on here at the CCA workbench. Certainly, we're talking about rigs and techniques. So, Dave,
Well, we want
what's
to talk
this
a little
about?
bit about cast nets because, you know, cast nets are a mystery to a lot of people. You know, people see them throwing those big nets out there and they go, oh, you know, how am I going to do that? That's going to be hard to learn, and they don't know anything about it. And if you're going to be fishing, you know, with baits especially, you're going to want to be able to learn how to throw a cast net because live bait especially gets pretty expensive if you keep buying it and buying it and buying it.
Right.
And it's really not that hard. One afternoon with a cast net and a good video, you could probably learn how to throw a cast net pretty good enough to catch yourself some bait anyway. And the one thing about cast nets is, you know, they come probably between 3 and, you know, depending on where you live, 12 to 14 feet. And those big nets above 8 feet are usually reserved for commercial guys who really know how to throw a net. So if you're a first-timer guy, you probably want to stay with a net that's 8 feet and under. And you're always going to look for a monofilament net. You know, you might find a nylon net out there these days, but most nets are going to be made out of monofilament, and the reason why is because it's clear, it doesn't absorb water very much. Nylon absorbed a lot of water, and this monofilament does not. And you want to make sure you have plenty of weight, you know, on it. Most cast nets, to be a good sink rate, you're going to need about 1.5 pounds at least per foot. Good nets will have more. And the sink rate is not only determined by the weights on the end, it's also your mesh size.
Right.
When you've got a small, tiny mesh size, I think this is what, a 1/4 inch? This looks like a quarter inch.
Yeah.
This is a 1/4 inch mesh size. It goes, they make even smaller. And this is, you know, a good net for just a regular size white bait, 2 to 3 inch white bait, you know, a 1/4 inch size. And that's a good rule of thumb is, you know, a 3/8 inch is a good for a lot of different things. What you want to do is you want to get the maximum amount that you can without gilling your baits.
Right.
Because once your baits are able to push their heads through those holes, you end up killing a bunch of them. And that's not what you want. You're wanting to catch live baits. Although sometimes you're fishing, you know, you're trying to catch a bunch of bait that you could use for chum or something, it won't matter. But usually that's your rule of thumb. You're going to try to use the largest mesh that you can that doesn't gill the size bait you're
Correct,
after.
because obviously, as you said, the smaller the size mesh, the slower it sinks.
Right.
So when you have big holes, then it's going to sink a lot faster, but then you take a chance of what we refer to it as Christmas treeing your net. And what that is when you pull your net up and it's shaped like a Christmas tree, and all those little bitty heads are sticking out.
Yes,
They look
exactly.
like ornaments, and they're all these baits have been gilled that are too small to get caught in the net.
Right.
And so I'll tell you a cool way to get that done, to get it out. A lot of times you have to pop the heads off and then it drops everything out. If you wait until that fish dries out, like when you get home,
Yeah, it's a lot,
let
it's
it
a lot
dry
easier.
out. Don't try to get it out in the boat because it's just problematic. It ends up, you stink, and it makes a huge mess. When you wait, if you get to where you wait till you get home and those baits have a chance to dry out, Dave, if you pop that net like this, just like that, a lot of times it will pop the fish's head off, and then the bait itself or the body of the fish will fall to the inside of the net. Then you
Right.
just have to clean up what's there in your yard.
Well, another thing is, you know, you're going to be also cognizant of the depth of the water you're in. You know, if you're in really deep water and you're fishing for bigger baits, like or even pinfish or mullet, they're good at getting out from under a net. So you need to have plenty of weight that'll pin that net to the bottom and get a good bottom seal, so that when you start picking up on it and,
Right.
and closing it up, if it's not, you know, making contact with the bottom, then you're going to lose some baits out of the bottom. And a good thing to do is, you know, a longer weight actually works really good in places where there's a lot of grass and that sort of thing, because round, small weights will pick up grass. Long weights won't pick up as much grass for some reason. They just won't pick up the
Well,
grass.
one of the reasons why Black Pearl uses the round nets is so that, one, it slides across the sand.
Right.
That's number one. It doesn't get hung up. Number two, the difference in what they do is they put more weights closer together.
Right.
A lot of nets will only have half of the weight
Right.
that you have here.
Yeah, you want them to be around 2.5 inches tops apart.
And this is a lot closer.
Yeah,
than that.
those are probably under 2 inches.
And so then, as you say, the bait can't push out from underneath.
Right. You want a good contact all the way around when you throw it out. So, and when you take care of them, you know, like this net here is nice and soft. It's because you had it in some fabric softener.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a good tip also. When you get a new net, before you do anything, take it out, stretch it, and then put it in a 5-gallon bucket of water and a cup of fabric softener.
Yeah, it makes the
Before
it
you ever
really
use
soft.
it, and leave it for 12 to 24 hours. I left this one 24 hours, and look how soft it is.
It's really soft. It makes it fly really nice.
It's like Bree's hair that's been freshly conditioned. Right,
Yes.
Bree?
Very
so
soft.
Bouncy and shiny today as well. See? All right. Last week, our captain from the Middle Coast region was feeling a bit winded, as I'm sure you were too if y'all were out trying to get on the golf. But Captain Bink Grimes has some good news for y'all this weekend, don't you, Bink?
I do. I talked last week about the possibility of the beach front getting right after the last spring cold front that was forecasted to blow through. Well, the surf got really right this week, and anglers from Surfside to Port O'Connor took advantage of the lake-like conditions in the Gulf of Mexico. My charter didn't want to get out of the boat, so we drifted on the outgoing tide, which worked out better since trout were hanging on the outer bars at low tide. We followed slicks in about 5 foot of water and power pole down and worked on the trout with live shrimp at our mid-coast popping cork. Some caught fish on top water, some on soft plastic, but live bait seemed to work the best because of the water clarity. The water wasn't what we call trout green. It was kind of stained, actually. I think there were so many big Gulf shrimps out about a half mile off the beach working the big white shrimp that it just didn't allow the water to get gorgeous on us. I can't remember the last time so many fishermen caught so many trout in the surf this early in May. It was quite a blessing last week, and it really gives us a glimpse of what the summer's going to be. In the bays, West Matagorda Bay continues to produce, though catches slowed a little last week due to the weak tides. We lost about 2 foot of water with a cold front, and it forced the trout to leave the shell and tight to the shorelines and kind of sink back to the deeper gut. I had a wading group last week who brought with them one of the new Rapala Skidder V10 topwaters. They kind of snuck it in on me and were hammering fish on the incoming tide. They actually said they saw it on the show about 2 weeks ago, and it worked. Let me tell you, I'm heading to Johnny's Sports Shop in Eagle Lake to pick up a dozen. This week, we're expecting tides to return to normal with our southeast breezes. They've already come up about a foot, and we're going to get back on that summer pattern. I got a photo there of Brock Brandel there, really nice 5-pound trout out of Keller Bay. He was tossing topwaters over sand and grass, and got him a good one there.
That is a good one.
I'm going to go to redfish. Guide Randall Grove said the redfish have been good in Bastrop Bay on live shad when you can find it. He said the best topwater baits have been that red-headed skitterwalk, which is another Rapala bait. Water clarity's been stained, but it hadn't mattered because the reds are finding that loud rattle of that dog walker. When throwing plastics, he's been using Black Magic Norton Sandhill Juniors and Bull Menace. The surf also had redfish in there this week. We chased reds in the surf after we caught our limited trout and found the biggest fish just off the second bar on mullet, shrimp, and gulps. We also caught a lot of redfish under a popping cork right along the rocks on the backside of the jetty, the West Matagorda jetty, that is. Guide Michael Quebeca found good redfish and stiff winds on the reefs running parallel to the intercoastal in East Bay. He was using live shrimp about a foot deep under a mid-coast popping cork. When those tides fell after the cold front, all those redfish came out off the shorelines of East Matagorda Bay and fell into that deeper reefs in the middle of the bay. All that stuff that we usually fish for trout, all those redfish fell out there because the tide fell about 2 foot. We made long casts with bass assassins down south, live shrimp, gulps, and found the redfish behind slicks. Another picture there, that's my beautiful wife and daughter there with a big old red they caught on a bass assassin, rigged under a cork, so they can catch a fish when they need to.
Bink, what are you going to do with Mama on Mother's Day?
We're going to go to church, and we're going to go eat, and we're just going to kick back and probably watch Astros play.
All right, I like it. All right, well, tell me what's going on offshore, bub.
Offshore, when the Gulf of Mexico went flat last week, lots of big offshore boats knocked the dust off for the first time in 2017. Every species was in play because our Gulf was about as flat as I've seen it in a long time. And shoot, it was so flat, a lot of those big boats were running 40 knots or better. Guy Michael Gabecca, man, he said those cobia were all over the rigs and the small oil stick-ups. He actually sight casted the 80-pounder and hooked it for a while before it wrapped around the sharp rig legs. He also said the blue marlin are showing on the rips and the floating platforms about 80 to 100 miles out. He's trolling those big black barks and rig ballyhoos. Red snappers in Freeport, Matagorda, and Port O'Connor off the nearshore rigs. They're still in state waters. There's a lot in federal waters, but you got to release them in federal waters. But the ones we're keeping in state waters, they're not the double-digit fish, but occasionally you'll get you a 15 to 20-pounder out there. There's also a lot of bull reds and jacks a little closer to the beach and around San Luis Pass, and Spanish mackerel to 6 pounds showed up this week as well.
Wow, it sounds like the Middle Coast is on fire. We're gonna go ahead and take a look at the Middle Coast hotspots from Captain Bink's region. Inshore redfish, the reefs of the ICW and East Matagorda Bay are good for redfish on live shrimp and mullet under at Mid-Coast Popping Cork. And then offshore, big cobias are good around any structure in the Gulf 40 to 60 feet of water with a finger mullet, sand trout, or even maybe a croaker, Bree.
A croaker?
A croaker.
All right, coming up on the Texas Insider Fishing Report, we're checking in with the Middle Fresh and Upper Coast regions, and we have a special guest from Costa with the Mosta. We'll be chatting with you, who you'll definitely want to stick around for, so stay hooked on the Texas, Florida, Texas
Insider Fishing Report.
Fishing Report. Texas, Texas, Texas.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Contender Boats, performance through innovation. Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, the best lures, period. CCA Star, fishing fun for giant prizes and scholarships. Costa Sunglasses, see what's out there. Power Pole, swift, silent, secure. And King Sailfish Mounts, www.kingsailfish.com.
At Yamaha, reliability is a family tradition. Meet the next generation. 4 new advanced technology-inspired inline 4-cylinder performers. Bred from the reliability and boater satisfaction that is part of Yamaha's DNA. They prove that when power gets lighter, faster, stronger, and smarter, boating gets even better. And more satisfying for boaters like you.
Hey, how do you like your Contender? How do I like my Contender? What's not to like?
Dude, I just saw a Contender, and man, I gotta get me one.
As close as you're gonna get to a sure thing for catching billfish is Guatemala.
They're here, man. This has been a 20-year run, buddy. These things haven't left. There's no cycle.
When it comes to sail fishing, this is the real deal.
The amount of sailfish here is ridiculous.
Hi, I'm Robert Shamlin with JL Marine Systems with your Power Pole Tip of the Week. Last week we talked about how the advanced features of our Sea Monster system allows you to better control drift paddles in deep water. But a lot of people wonder, what is the Sea Monster control system? Well, basically, it's the smarts in our parts. It gives you all of the additional features like bottom sensing, auto up and down, speed control, or independent control of multiple anchors when you're using duals. It's also an all-wireless system, so it makes installation very quick and easy. When you're programming the controllers, it's much, much quicker with the SeaMonster control system. In fact, it's so smart, it even comes with its own app packed with all kinds of additional features that we're going to talk about in next week's show. And that's your Power Pole Tip of the Week.
So we're here at the CCA workbench, and you know, Jonathan, Costa is no stranger to eyewear, but we've got a new product in a new division. Why don't you tell everybody about it?
Absolutely. So you guys are very familiar with Costa sunglasses, and probably since 2011, Costa RX. But our new collection here is Costa When the Sun Goes Down.
So let me get this straight before we get into we can still now have our prescriptions through our optometrist that is a Costa dealer. We can get any of our frames that we see over in the cabinet and get prescription glasses with all the tints and everything, the shades, the color lenses that we want, correct?
Absolutely. So you've got your Costa Sun and your Sun RX. So in the RX world, yes, you can get your blue mirrors, your green mirrors for any offshore situation that you have. But Costa Optical is a little different. You get all the DNA that's in the frame, but it's for the clear ophthalmics. And you can find your optical dealer on CostaDelmar.com.
All right, so let's talk about the actual new products part of it. So tell me about these new frames.
So you guys are all familiar with that non-slip Hydrolite hypoallergenic rubber that runs around the frames. You're going to see that in our collection. You're going to see non-corrosive metals as well. And
I feel them.
Yeah, for sure. So that's going to have a topographic pattern of our rubber, and it's going to run the entire frame for those non-slip situations.
All right, so then we also comes in, as you say, the different metal frames. How many different frame selections do we possibly have?
Absolutely. We've got around 63 styles. SKUs. Yeah, so there's something for everybody in the collection.
So what about guys like me that I don't have to have the prescription glasses anymore? I got my eyes fixed a few years back, but I still need, Jonathan, a little help inside reading the menu, you know? So can I get those as well?
You can, yeah. Whether you have single vision, progressive, bifocals, your optometrist can fit you with our Costa optical collection.
I love it. Well, the one thing I love is we can always see what's out there. Certainly, Costa has done a great job. The case is really bad to the bone. Cork, really love it. Bree, we got to go to another region, and I'm just going to try on all my Costas while you're doing it.
You do that. I'm super excited for Costa Optical. I have to wear driving glasses, so I'm going to be getting me one of those 63 pairs. So excited. All right, if you're fishing around El Paso to San Angelo, Waco, or Sam Rayburn and Toledo Bend, then you're in luck for your guide from the Star-Tron Middle Fresh region, Steven Johnston. Hey, Steven.
Hey, how y'all doing?
We're pretty good. Just trying on glasses here in the studio.
Yeah, it sounds like fun. I wish I was there with y'all. All right, we're gonna start off talking about Toledo Bend bass this week. We really got pounded pretty much on the east part of our region last week. Most of the area got 4 to 6 inches of rain, and what that's done, that's really put a jump on just about all the lakes. But on Toledo Bend, Toledo was really about 3.5 feet low, so it's jumped up 2 feet. And what this has done, this has put the water back up in the hay grass and up on top of the hydrilla. So what that means is you can take a white swim jig with a Strike King Rage Crawl or a Little Dipper swim bait for a trailer and cast it and work it out through that hay grass back over top of that matted hydrilla, and it's working real good. Also, for all the frog guys out there, a popping frog or a buzzing frog are both working real good in white or perch color. So that's really coming on strong, especially this week. We've got brim with the moon being full. The next big wave of brim are moving in. So with those popping perch and buzz perch, that's going to be a good killer, catching a couple big old fish up on that hay grass. There's another group of fish out in the 7 to 14 foot. There's some scattered hydrilla in that 7 to 9 foot range in certain parts of the lake. And if not, those fish are just roaming around on the small little drops from that 7 to 14 foot. And that range, throwing a Texas rig, a 7 or a 10-inch, just a bandit-style worm in a red buck or June buck color. And also we're cranking a Strike King 5 or 6XD shad or perch color crankbait. And I always like to use either 10 or 12 pound line with those crankbaits, fluorocarbon. That helps it get down there, and the bait works real good, and you can really, dig down in that bottom with those crankbaits.
All right, Bub, you got some brim for us. Go ahead and give it to us.
Yeah, a lot of people, kind of poo-poo the brim deal, but a brim deal in my region is a huge deal. People come from, all over the country to my region just to brim fish. And with the moon this week, the brim are really moving in, and we talked about the high water earlier. It's really put, a lot of good water behind the hydrilla and behind the hay grass, so it's a great place for those brim to get up. One thing to remember on your lake or your area you're fishing, if that water's stained, those brim are going to bed in that 2 to 3 foot range. But if you're fishing on a lake or a certain part of the lake and the water's clear, those brim will definitely bed in that 5 to 8 foot range. So one thing about it, you might need a little bit bigger weight to get your bait down. A lot of people use a cork. It just depends on how you like to fish it. And one thing to keep in mind, those brim like bedding in the back of a cove. If you can find a cove where it's kind of silted in the back, you go in a pocket and it flattens out in that 6, 7 foot range, 5 foot range, kind of the same place as those bass like to bed. Those brim are, bedding in those areas too. And also on any kind of points going into small little pockets, if you got some flat points on the side, that's a good place to look for them too. The best baits for the brim are always just a regular old can of corn. You can buy at any grocery store, in any kind of live earthworms. But the best bait of all is the live cricket. And I tell everybody it's a funny deal, but make sure when you got your cricket cages, make sure they're all put together, because there's nothing any worse than having 100, 150 crickets turn loose in your boat. They're going to be talking to you for a long time to come.
Where are we going with that one?
That's some really
Don't
good
give them in your
advice.
car either.
Steven, I got a question for you. So you said using corn for bait. How are we going to hook the corn on the hook?
You just take a regular hair hook is what we call it, and you just take one kernel of corn or 2 kernels of corn. It just depends on what size brim. And 2 kernels of corn, that your hook will fall slower too. So a lot of times you want a slower fall. If a lot of those big brim are just moving in, they won't be right on the bottom. They'll be up about a foot above, cruising around. So you just kind of, play it. You can have a little BB shot, or if the wind gets blowing, put 2 or 3 little BB shots smash on weight.
All right, man.
It really works good.
That sounds like some fun. I don't know how that'd work for my son Colin, because I have a
He'd eat
feeling
it.
he'd be eating the corn. But all right, we'll talk to you again next week. Thanks. Great report from the Middle Fresh region. Our guide says that our hot spots is Toledo Bend bass for shallow fish. Use some swimming jigs and frogs in 2 to 6 feet of water. For the deeper fish, a Texas rig or crankbait from 7 to 14
Man, Steven
feet of
is
water.
just full of tips.
He is.
Corn.
Corn.
Don't poo-poo the brim. Did you get
Nope,
that one?
I got it.
Don't do that.
Poo-foo.
All right.
That's going to be your
Poo-poo.
new word, I can
It
tell.
is. All right, hey guys, coming up, we want to tell you about the Big Bass Splash on May 19th through the 21st on Lake Toledo Bend at Cypress Bend Park. This is your chance to win big with $490,000 guaranteed in cash and prizes and hourly cash prizes, all benefiting St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital and Ronald McDonald House Charities. For more information, go to SealyOutdoors.com. But as always, gracing us with a variety of species from the Upper Coast region is Captain Caleb Harp with Harp's Guide Service, reporting on the inshore and offshore bite from Houston to Port Arthur and into Galveston Bay. Bet you've been enjoying these less windy days, Caleb.
Definitely. It picked up today, though.
Oh, shoot.
It was pretty windy, but no, it's been blowing. But this weekend was real nice. It was real calm, and everybody had a good time offshore and inshore.
That's what we hear.
It was good, but we'll go ahead and kick it off, talk about these trout. Kind of the normal routine for this time of year that's really hard to beat, is drifting the reefs in East Bay. That's been the most consistent in the whole Galveston Bay complex. East Bay is covered in reefs, so pretty much all the reefs have been good. There's fish all over the place. It just depends on how the tide comes in as far as which reef to fish. Hannah's Reef and Pepper Grove Reef are going to be your most productive, most reliable, but also the most crowded. There's going to be about 30 or 40 boats on all of those reefs, but there's fish there. Really, though, the key to drifting those reefs, you can just drift straight across them, but finding the high points within the reefs on your depth finder will help you be able to pinpoint better structure and be able to single out different schools of fish. Just figuring out little places where they want to hide better than just blind, aimlessly drifting is pretty good. But also looking for slicks, too. We'll be able to show you exactly where the fish are moving, and you can follow them and stay on them a lot better that way. Mirror lure Little Johns are hard to beat. That's my go-to bait out there on the reefs. I like Purple Demon whenever the water's stained to almost, a trout green color, and Chartreuse Ice whenever the water's gin clear. An 8-ounce head, I'm throwing an 8-ounce head most all the time, but I feel like that you can work the water column a little better with that 8-ounce head instead of going straight to the bottom. But sometimes that current really starts ripping. I know we're going to be on the backside of the full moon coming up, so the tide's going to be a little weaker. So I probably wouldn't switch over to it. But if the current is ripping, quarter-ounce jig head's going to be able to get you down a lot better. And then we'll go talk about some of these redfish. In the area, kind of close, those redfish are pretty thick in drains, little marsh ponds and rock walls all along the intercoastal between High Island and Sabine Pass. One of the best ways to locate these reds is to find bait. And this area is such a huge, it's a huge area to cover. From High Island to Sabine Pass, it's really all the same stuff. But really the best way to find the bait and find the fish is just to cruise down the intercoastal, and you'll see the white birds. Those white birds, they're the best fishermen in the water. If they don't eat, they don't live. So, they're going to find that bait for you, and they're going to show you where those fish are. Along the rock walls, the best way to fish it is to fish parallel to the rocks with spinner baits. White chartreuse are going to be your better colors. The working drains and the marsh ponds is better with like a gulp shrimp underneath the popping cork. That's really hard to beat for redfish in the intercoastal. But if they're pushing, if you get up into a marsh pond and you see them waking in there, side casting with a marsh minnow or any like paddle tail on a light jig head can be really good too.
All right, you ready to go offshore, Big Matt?
Let's do it, man. Finally got some people go offshore this weekend with the light wind. It's been cranking every day since we've been talking, but some guys went out and caught a lot of cobia this weekend on nearshore structures, navigation buoys. From the jetties, about 5 miles out, pretty much anything above water on that cobia deal. They're sight casting. When they weren't up, they're just jigging. But live bait is always going to be a little more consistent, but those lures are great too. When you're live baiting, little sardines on 4/0 hooks are really, really good. But when it comes to lures, big swim baits, bucktail or curly tail jigs are your best bet. And like I said, when those cobia are up on top, you can just side cast at them, but when they get down, just drop down into your blind jig for them. And then, a lot of guys went out and caught their ling or their cobia, and then they also went out and caught some snapper. And snapper, they're pretty much thick on any structure in the state or federal waters. Even though the federal water snapper season's closed, you can still catch and release. But the state water fish, that's 365 days a year. I know the red snapper deal. The season, they're only giving us 3 days this year whenever it opens, but you can still catch and release in federal waters, even though it's a little better in federal waters, you can still get out there and catch those big ones. Just make sure you throw them back and use a good finning tool, make sure they're released, harm-free. But any kind of live bait or dead bait on pretty much any kind of structure, any reef, anything out there is going to have snapper on it right now.
All right, thank you so much, Caleb. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the CCA Upper Coast Region hotspots. Inshore trout on the reefs in East Galveston Bay, Hannah and Pepper Grove reefs are going to be the most consistent, but there are fish on all the reefs. Drifting with a mirror lure Little John on an 1/8 ounce or a 1/4 ounce jig head and Purple Demon or Chartreuse Ice is your best bet. And then cobias on the nearshore structure and navigational buoys, 3 to 5 miles out of Galveston, big swim baits, bucktails, curly-tailed jigs, and the cobias can be up to 65 pounds.
65 pounders.
That's a lot of sushi.
Yes, it is. Okay, y'all, the lower fresh region is last on our list tonight, and we're also going to see what Dave has to showcase at the new CCA workbench for new products. You ready?
They're getting
Dave?
offshore. We got some stuff for those fellows who are getting out there. Gonna try to catch some big wahoos on these, I imagine.
All right, we'll see you guys in just a sec.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Maverick Boat Group, makers of premium boat brands Maverick, Hughes, and Pathfinder. Rapala, catch the latest at rapala.com. Yeti, built for the wild. Building Conservation Trust, CCA's National Habitat Program. StarTron, cures and prevents ethanol fuel problems. And Casa Vieja Lodge, 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala.
The ultimate predator has evolved again. Now, Yamaha VMAX SHO Performance is prowling the waters in 4 hungry, exciting new models. With their 4 valves per cylinder and double overhead cam fuel-injected design, these advanced 4-stroke predators are taking performance to a whole new level. Vicious, lean, efficient. VMAX SHO. The pack is growing.
Thanks for tuning in to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram to keep up with our captains, contests, and appearances. You never have to miss a show. You can find full episodes as well as special segments right on our homepage. Just head to TexasInsiderFishingReport.com for everything you need to know to stay hooked up. CCA Texas is going social to keep you up to date on the latest conservation news in your area. Like CCA Texas page on Facebook, follow them on Twitter and Instagram, and subscribe to their YouTube page to keep up with the habitat highlights, important advocacy news, cool contests, and great fishing tales. But do you have a picture of an awesome catch you'd like to share with your fellow anglers? Send it in to the CCA Texas Facebook page for consideration. CCA, the leader in marine conservation and habitat restoration.
Boy, you would think that this show is sponsored by CCA.
Yeah,
We're here
exactly.
at the CCA workbench.
Yes, yep, you're correct.
Do great stuff for conservation, don't they, Dave?
Yes, sir. We'd have a hard time without them.
Absolutely.
Well, we're going to start off with these live target baits here. These are some trolling baits, and they're made to get out there in the deep water, and I actually catch big redfish on them in the wintertime because they'll...
Really?
Yeah, big redfish. We'll eat that, believe it or not.
Man.
But they're made primarily to catch yellowfin tunas, wahoos, dolphins, you know, most pelagic species. That one's the Spanish mackerel right there. He looks just like a little Spanish mackerel. They come in sizes ranging from 4.5 to 6 inches, and that thing will go from 10 feet, 25 feet, depending on which one you get deep.
I gotcha.
Yeah, and they'll go 10 knots with that one, or this little cigar minnow over there. They'll go 10 knots and then go in a straight line. You don't want to go too much faster than that. They might start to get, the bigger the lip, you know, the faster you go, the more tendency they have to spin. But they'll go up to 10 knots in a straight line, which is plenty fast enough, and you should be able to snag all kinds of nice, tasty pelagic fish on those live targets.
All right, so what else you got?
Well, these are some really cool, like an attractor for jigs. And this fella up in Connecticut, Bruce Millar, Captain Bruce Millar, he's been making these for these fellas up there to catch striped bass and big cods and all that stuff. And they've been putting them on their jigs and whatnot. And they make, you know, remember the Uncle Josh pork rinds?
Oh, yeah.
Well, these are kind of like the same stuff, except it's a synthetic material that's super, super hard. I mean, this stuff is really, really hard and strong. And it's soaked in some squid oil and some other stuff. So he makes jigs, he makes the strip baits, he makes little split ones, you know, and the curly tails like the one you got there. You know, you put this on a jig and it will curl. And I imagine these things are going to be, you know, people start using these things down here.
Cool stuff.
You're going to use, you
Cool
catch a lot
stuff.
of fish with these little things. He makes big spoons too for striped bass as well.
What else?
Well, we got He's
This is the new Sea Sucker trash bag
correct
holder.
Yeah, correct. It's called it's a waist.
So let me show you how it works.
Waistband.
Dave. We're gonna take and we're gonna stick this on any flat surface, push it in there, which is why they call it Sea Sucker. We're gonna pump that ball, that little pump, until the orange part is missing. Once the orange part is
Goes
gone,
away.
guess what? Now it's stuck.
Right. Yep. They make a 12 by 7 and that's a little 6 by 4 right there. These things will not come off. And I know. We always have a problem, with trash on the boat. Where to put it? Is it going to stay there? Et cetera, et cetera.
And that's the thing. He's got two sizes, a big one and a little one for your trash needs. And it just simply hook your trash bag, and you use these clips, and that's what locks your trash bag in. There's 4 points that it hooks up to.
Correct.
Love it. Sea Sucker.
And this is our CCA landing net. This is you can find these at Academy. This thing extends a good ways. It's got a nice monofilament coated, so it's not going to tear all the slime off, It extends like 17 inches, 18 inches actually.
Wow.
I know it's 18 inches because they have a nice little ruler on here for you as well.
So you can use that ruler to measure
once you
your
land
fish.
him, you can put him up here and find out how long he is. But go to academy.com and get your CCA landing net.
I like it. All right, Bree, what are we going to land next?
Well, Matt Reed in the Yeti Lure Fresh region is on the line. He's going to tell you what will be on the end of your line this weekend.
Hey, guys. How are y'all?
Good.
Doing
What's
pretty
going on,
good.
Matt?
I'm doing good, doing good. I'm going to try to cover several lakes in the South Texas region right quick and give us a little report on a bunch of them.
All right, let's go.
Let's roll. I'm going to start off with Lake Travis. My buddy Brian Cotter there sent me a report, and they're catching them really good in the back of coves where the minnows and perch are gathered up. They're throwing moving baits like a Strike Pro wake bait and any type of small fluke. Also catching them on small worms, in green pumpkin colors, little finesse worms and Cincos and that kind of stuff. So they're even catching a few of them that they see hanging out under the perch, sight fishing for them. So that's kind of a cool way to fish there. Got another report, which Bree was actually in on. Buddy Preston Dana is catching some on Lake Travis on a Kitech swim bait on a head, either the 3.8 or the 4.8. Moving along, let's roll to Lake Somerville right quick. Greg Boyk with Anglers Angle Guide Service. They are really catching them at Lake Somerville. Right now they're concentrating on main lake points around the shad spawn. Catching those fish on the shad color square boss crankbait or lipless crankbait, in shad patterns. And they've really been catching a lot of big fish. Next lake, I'm going to roll to Fayette County. The bass are doing really good out on the main lake points and ledges, catching those fish in 15 to 20 foot of water on a Carolina rig soft plastics and football jigs. If they're being picky, pick up your spinning rod with a shaky head, worm on it in a green pumpkin color, and that light line a bunch of times will help you add fish to what you're catching. If they get finicky on you, there's always more there than you think they are, and you can catch them on on that lighter rig. Got a report out of Lake Amistad, out in the Del Rio area. The bass are still biting really, really good there. Ray Hanselman with Ray Hanselman Outdoors says you can throw a topwater at them early in the morning. Swim bait or lightweight soft plastics are catching them really good around the hydrilla or the other shallow cover that you got there. And early in the mornings, keep an eye out for shad spawn on the windy points. If you see that activity up there, pick up a spinnerbait or a square bill and catch you a bunch of them in a hurry. All right, that's what I've got for a bass. The picture there with the bass, you've got Brian Cotter with a nice bass he caught on Lake Travis on a wake bait.
All right, let's talk about some stripers, big man.
All right, Lake Somerville, the hybrid stripers are still biting really well. Catching those fish in 14, 18 foot of water on a fluke. Just dead sticky. Just throw it out there and let it fall through them. You'll need to find the shad and the groups of fish on your electronics and throw to them and just let it slowly fall, and they'll hit it on the fall.
Matt, we appreciate it very much. We also appreciate you hooking Bree up with your man. It looks like there's a couple pictures here. Bree, you want to tell us about these pictures that we have?
Absolutely.
All right, well, see, all right, we got the hot spots. I'm sorry, we'll do the hot spots first. A largemouth bass in Travis, Summersville, Fayette County, and Amstead tries shad color square bill crankbaits around the points and the shad spawn.
Now I will tell you about those
Tell me
pictures.
about the pictures.
Gotta get those hot spots in first, you know.
You're right.
Well, I went out with Preston Danner out in Lake Travis, and we caught a few good-sized bass, not like
Now, who's
Brian
this with
caught
you?
it. This is Miss Celine Pelofi. She was actually Miss United States, and it was her first time fishing, and she had so much fun. You know, we didn't catch any of the big ones like Brian Cotter did, but you know, we caught a few little ones, and she had so much fun, and it was a beautiful day out on the water. The water was super clear, and it's just a good day fishing.
It looks like it. I mean, I have a feeling my man was having a hard time concentrating.
Yeah, that's not
how to catch a big
good
bass.
for him, is it?
Fine,
No,
he was
man.
fine.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
So what are we gonna do this weekend?
I only get to take my dog
Mother's
fishing.
Day.
Mother's Day. What are you
Got
doing?
Mother's Day.
I'm probably going to go over to a big party, you know? A big
Yeah.
party. My buddy's coming back into town, and we're going to go and have a big party.
Big
You
Mother's
guys
Day
did
party.
a good job tonight.
Well, thank you very
so
much.
much. Bye, Bree.
Thanks, sir. Bye,
Hey
guys.
guys, don't
Thank
forget
you so
to watch
much.
Sportsman's Adventures.
See y'all
We
next week.
appreciate you watching this week.
Happy Mother's Day.
All right. Bye-bye.
Mama's Day.